Pew, 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 pew. Battery's dead, so it usually either makes noise or makes a light. But wow, these intros are getting really bad. Hi, welcome to the channel. I'm SB Mitch. You can give me a follow on social media or subscribe to the channel if you want to see more stuff sneaker related. I don't really do much of anything else. Like literally, I don't really do much of anything else. Hello, pals. This year continued the trend of Nike SB Dunks being nearly impossible to get because of uncontrollable circumstances and people that consider themselves musicians. So if you were able to get any kind of SB Dunk this year at retail, you're lucky, because a lot of people weren't able to. And there were 5 specific releases that some I do have, some I don't have, that really caught my eye this year. And when it comes to top 5 or 10 or whatever lists, every single video needs a disclaimer, because for some weird reason, nameless, faceless eggs on YouTube feel the need to be combative in the comments. Folks, remember, these are just opinions. Like, my opinion is not gonna align with everybody's, or probably many people, because I go on what I like by colorway and how aesthetically pleasing a shoe is. I don't care about materials that much. I really don't care about a story, because a story is something you read in a book, not a shoe. A shoe is something you put on your foot. If that's important to you, cool, that's awesome. It's not important to me. So with that being said, here's my top 5 Nike SB releases of 2021. This Nike SB Dunk High, I think it's a Pro or a Premium, I don't remember. I don't have them, I don't own them, mainly because I don't really like highs. But this is probably one of the better looking, it's probably the best looking Dunk High that came out this year in my opinion. Nike SB collaborated with Baltimore-based Carpet Company, which is like a skate brand or just brand in general, I guess you could say, on this Dunk High that is extremely aesthetically pleasing to me. I think it pulls off a trend that was kind of overkilled in 2020 with the whole tearaway concept, but the fact that it's blue on the outside and yellow underneath is just very cool. And this shoe screams the influence of the owners, who are 2 Egyptian brothers, which I think is just really, really cool. I think this shoe just looks good. It just looks good. Like, you got a gum outsole, you got a white midsole, there's blue and yellow, it's even got a patch on it. Like, this shoe was released really well, and it did really well. And it's from Baltimore, where they say home and oh. My number 4 release of 2021 is this year's shoe. It's an ACG Terra inspired Dunk Low SB in the red plum colorway. I just think it's really well done. Like, I'm not a huge fan of the first ACG Terra that came out, but this is based off an Air Terra from 1992. You can see my review of this shoe right there because it's pretty recent. But this is just a really nicely done, well color blocked shoe with great materials. I know I said materials don't really matter to me, but when it's an all suede shoe, it kind of does matter because it's way more comfortable. This shoe just proves you don't really need to do a collaboration to have a really good release. This is just a general release that was really good. And I tip my cap to Nike SB because they did a really good job on general releases this year, and this is probably the best one. Verdy and Nike SB teamed up on this release for my number 3 overall Nike SB release of 2021. I just think this shoe is very cool. You can see my review of it right here. Basically what I said in the review is that this shoe just reminds me of skating and punk rock and like crappy beer and stuff like that. So Verdy's usual stuff is basically very heavy on the red, which, I mean, there are red secondary laces and there is a rose on the medial side of each shoe, but there's just a lot of aspects of this shoe that remind me of like jean jackets and like just cool stuff that reminds me of skating in like the 90s and the 80s. So this shoe is simple yet complex at the same time. And these are definitely deserving of being in anyone's top 5 or even top 10 list or something like that, because it's just a really well done, well executed shoe. This is the only release this entire year that I'm just kicking myself for not getting, especially now that resale prices are pretty high on them. But Nike SB released this shoe, I think in the EU only. I don't know why. You'd have to look it up yourself. I don't have the time or the desire to look it up myself, but this shoe just looks absolutely awesome. The color blocking on this shoe is really great. I know I said before that story doesn't really matter, but the fact that they took inspiration from a Sony VX1000 and put it on a shoe is really cool. And it's just like, it screams skateboarding. And I think the design is so literal, but at the same time so subtle that it just works so well. I'm probably eventually gonna be an idiot and spend a bunch of money on getting these shoes once I sell through some personals, but this was a hard one, even not owning it, to not put on this list because it's just such a great looking shoe. Before we talk about the number one shoe, which should be pretty obvious by this point, let's talk about two honorable mentions that barely didn't make the cut. This is a shoe that I never got and I haven't seen in hand, but just looking at them, you can tell the materials are top tier and the colorway is just very good. It's not a shoe I could pull off and wear and not look down at my feet and be like, wow, that looks really dumb, but it is probably one of the better looking shoes of the year. And I mean, it's no surprise, FTC always does a really good job on any collaboration they do with Nike SB, and this shoe follows suit. I had this shoe and I sold it, but I wasn't gonna keep them anyway. But this is just probably the best general release high this entire year because it's so well executed. The materials are good, colorway's great, and it's an all suede shoe. So this is just like something that screamed, like if it was a low, it would be on this list. It would be in the top 5. But because it is a high, I kind of had to leave it off the top 5, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it is, as I said, probably the best general release Dunk High SB of the year 2021. I mean, duh. Like, this is a shoe that I had been looking for all the way back since like, I think early in the year 2019 when they released like teaser pictures of this shoe. This shoe is perfection in terms of colorway. In terms of comfort, that's a whole nother story, but when you take Piet Para, a shoe that's color blocked like this with a gum outsole, like this is just an absolute perfect Nike Dunk Low SB in my opinion. You can see my review on them here. I ended up getting these from Atmos for retail, which is super lucky, but I mean, absolutely perfect looking shoe in my opinion. And there you go. There's my top 5 Nike SB releases. Yes, I know they were all dunks. I know there were a lot of other SB releases, but none that had an impact on my opinion as much as dunks did. I know there were a lot of Bruins that released that were really good. I know there were a lot, like they re-released the Verona. They came out with the Force 58s that are just a really great looking shoe, but at the end of the day, those are the top 5 that really caught my eye compared to anything else. Drop your lists below. I wanna see your guys' lists too. You can say you agree, you can say you disagree, that's totally cool, but put your list down below because I wanna see them too. Like I actually am being sincere when I say that. I wanna see your top 5 or top 10 Nike SB releases of 2021. So, that's all we got for you today. Probably another top whatever list coming in the next couple of days because I'm still overseas. So until next time, take care of each other. Remember to keep sneakers fun because they're supposed to be fun. What am I doing? Bye.